Welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. I'm your host, Mary Crafts. And you know what? It's like always, I'm so delighted to be here. I've been doing this now this marks my fifth year. I'm starting my fifth year of podcasting. I have almost 260 episodes. And by now, to be honest with you, most people who started podcasting have quit podcasting. And then there's a whole new crop starting again. But when you've done it this long, it's like, well, I've run out of guests, or I've run out of things to talk about. And the thing that you and I both know is, nope, Mary doesn't ever run out of anything to talk about. And part of that is because I have so many amazing guests in addition to my own words of wisdom for you. So today I have another one. And believe it or not, this one is from Nice, France. Welcome, Angela Irwin.
Thank you so much. And first of all, congratulations on 5 years of podcasting. Yeah. That's an amazing milestone. And I'm so pleased to be here with you today.
Well, it's really I take it an honor to this many years and this many weeks to have people's time, because time is that most valuable thing that you can give anyone. And so I'm very grateful, and I take it very seriously that people are giving their time to me and to learning and to processing. And one of the things that I find universal, and that is that we all have struggles. I've not ever met one. I thought I've met some, but when you dig deeper, nope, they've got struggles too. And so we all have that. But in the end, what we realize about those struggles is that they actually have become our gifts. And that through those struggles, we have learned exactly who we are, what we're made of, and what we're going to do with our life. And so I don't see struggles as a bad thing for me. They're like one of the greatest things that ever happened. And that's why I'm still in them today, is because I'm still looking for growth. Now, you have a very unique kind of struggle that came into your life. So I'm going to let you tell the story of how you were born in South Dakota, and then ended up in Nice, France, and in the middle of that, had a life story that has changed you and what you're about.
Well, thank you for that. And that's so beautifully said. We all do have struggles, and exactly as you summarized, the thing that I thought was the most embarrassing, shameful part, and that was losing my hearing, and which I know sounds strange because that was not something that I had any control over, but that's come full circle and allowed me to find my purpose. It's allowed me to grow in ways I didn't know were possible, and now to be in service of other people, to better their relationship with themselves, and really step into their full confidence. So yeah, as you said it. So I was born in South Dakota, a town of 1,200 people. Most people don't believe South Dakota is a state, let alone.
Isn't that the land that Mount Rushmore is on?
It is. That's the thing we're the most famous for.
And it's the only reason really anybody goes to South Dakota. I mean, I hate to
I would probably
tell the true
that,
story,
yes.
But I don't think I would have gone to South Dakota if it hadn't have been for Mount Rushmore and then up to the Badlands. And, you didn't go there just to hang out, even though it's a really good state.
It's beautiful on that part of the state. So that's the western side of South Dakota.
Yeah.
I grew up all the way across, like 8-10 hour drive, which is just really not much but farmland, which is where I grew up on a farm. So so
it's what comes into our national anthem when they talk about fields of grain.
Exactly.
They're talking about South Dakota. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So you had normal hearing. You didn't have any issues with your hearing, and then, which is why you speak so well. And then all of a sudden, at age 7, you began to lose your hearing. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm incredibly grateful. Shout out to South Dakota, because as I understand it today, in 2022, not all states have the annual hearing test at the beginning of the year. And that was actually just such a
Okay.
blessing. I mean, obviously it was shocking and disappointing at the time, but yeah, kindergarten had the hearing test, normal hearing. First grade, they said, "Oh, it looks like she has a mild hearing loss." And of course, my parents were stunned. They said, "Well, take her to a," because that was like the school audiologist. They said, "Take her to a proper ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor." They tested, same result. They said, "Yeah, mild hearing loss, but with a child, um, it won't change. It's going to be this mild hearing loss. We'll just monitor it,
Yeah.
and no big deal." Well, famous last words,
Yeah.
because it really was a very unique situation, in that I would go back every summer to have my hearing tested, and every year it would have gotten worse, and they
Wow. So
couldn't figure
you
out why.
could you tell it was getting worse? Or was this just something that the doctors were telling you?
I think it was more at the beginning. I think it was more
Uh,
because it was slipping so slowly. And, I see this all the time with friends. It's similar to what you would expect at a very much later stage in life, where you slowly
right.
lose your hearing.
Like my
And
age. Okay, great.
no, you're far too young. You're far too young.
I don't know.
But
69 feels like I'm moving along.
but it's just this bizarre thing, and it was so gradual that I couldn't necessarily tell. But also, I was picking up. For example, I taught myself to lip read,
Ah.
and I didn't really know it. My parents absolutely didn't know it. But by the time I was in junior high, and my parents by that point had taken me North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska. They were taking me everywhere to try to find out, number one, why this
What
is
was going on? Yeah.
happening, what can we do, all of that sort of thing. And so I went to this facility. There's this amazing facility in Omaha, Nebraska. It's called Boys Town. And
Oh, yes.
they did a lip
See,
reading
I'm originally
test.
from Iowa. So I
Oh,
have been that path many times. I know where you're talking about, Boys Time in
wow.
Nebraska. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this massive facility. And so they did a lip reading test. And my parents were like, what in the world would they be doing a lip reading test? And I like passed with flying colors, and everybody was stunned.
Okay.
But it was just, a coping mechanism that I don't know. No explanation other than I just figured it out, and I would learn to pay extra attention, anticipate what people might say. But probably around that same time, junior high age, I knew that I was often getting it wrong. People would ask me something and I would respond, and you would get like a facial cue, if you will, that I had
Huh?
answered very wrong. And then that's where the shame starts to come in, because you just feel like, oh, you're so dumb. Like, why can't you hear this? Why can't you understand? Why can't you? So it really, really took a very heavy emotional toll at a very young age, and didn't really have the coping skills
Yeah.
to navigate that.
I think that so many of us have those kind of experiences in our youth, no matter what it is. Yours was not necessarily visual to others, with your hearing loss. And so they expected you to be completely, responding to them normally. And, for different people, it's different things. But the underlying fear is that I'm different. I'm not enough. I'm never going to be able to be normal. No one is going to accept me. I'm not accepted. No one plays with me. I mean, all those kind of things that happen to us as a childhood are the exact fears and inadequacies that we carry then into adulthood. And so that's why I love your story so much, is that it has a great ending. So, at what point in time did you realize that you really couldn't hear anything?
So I graduated from my undergraduate degree, which the professionals told my parents would never happen. They said, she won't graduate from high school. Don't encourage her to go
Oh,
to college, because by that point, the hearing loss would have progressed so much she won't be able to keep up. But that actually fueled me. And
Oof.
my parents didn't actually know that I knew they were told these things. That's the effect of living in a tiny town. So one of my classmates, his mom was a teacher at the school, and he must have overheard that. And so he told me that
Wow.
in fifth grade during recess one day, that I was never going to graduate from high school. And I
Oh,
never told anybody. I just kept that inside, that I was like, it did fuel me. I was like, okay, just watch me, just watch me. And so I did graduate from high school. I did graduate from my undergrad degree, but basically by the skin on my teeth. By that point, I couldn't understand on the phone anymore. It was pretty much, if I couldn't lip read, I couldn't understand anything. And so that's when I received my first cochlear implant at the age of 22, which I just celebrated 25 years in May of that anniversary. And it's just absolutely been life-changing and enabled me to live and work around the world. I've lived and worked on 3 continents. That's how I ended up, being able to be here in France. So when I look back at the jobs that I've had, the opportunities that I've had, and the travel that I've been able to do, I wouldn't have been able to do that without this technology.
and you wouldn't be able to have the career that you have right now without this problem. That this problem truly, the struggle that at the time was devastating to you, has actually become your gift. So tell me what the process was after you, when you woke up and like you could hear. What was that moment like?
So it is an interesting thing. So the technology is a bit, it does take time to learn to hear in this new manner. It's not quite as simple as, like, you put on a pair of
Ah,
glasses and you're like, oh, everything's clear. So it does take some learning therapy and listening therapy. But fortunately for me, my process was very quick because I had heard before. Normally, I had
yes.
already acquired speech and language development. So mine was pretty quick. And I went into a 15-year corporate career of marketing and clinical education. And that's how I ended up moving to
Mm.
France. My company moved me here for that. I was working in the medical devices space. But after about 5 years in that role, my position was, I was laid off, as I said, or made redundant, as we say here in Europe. And there had been something, even for a couple of years, like really in the heart of it. And people will say it's a calling, it's a whisper, it's a knowing, it's a something. And there was just something, like, just right in this chest region that was like, there's something else you're supposed to be doing. And, it was a fast paced environment. I was traveling all the time, on planes all the time, all around Europe, and, making nice income. That, had I not been laid off, I don't know that I would have ever had that time to just be like, okay, what is it? What is the thing? And so when that
What's
did happen,
next?
as
Yeah.
devastating as that was, because you feel rejected again, probably that childhood stuff coming up, not good enough. And long story short, I found my way into life coaching. I went through a year-long life coaching certification program. And it was during that time that all of that undealt with emotions came up, just like, opening Pandora's
Wow.
box. And it was really, what was really driving it was my business coach. It was also, so we were doing a life coaching certification, but we're also doing setting up an online business. And she kept pushing, and she said, you need to be visible. You need to be visible. You need to be getting on. So this is now like 6 years ago or 7 years ago. You need to be, out on social media. And for
And
me,
you finally got around to my podcast. Thank you.
it was the absolute going back to that little girl who was like, I need to keep my mouth shut because I'm going to answer wrong. I'm going to be made fun of. I'm going to misunderstand all of
Wow.
those
Yeah.
things. And she's like, be visible, be visible. So I went into absolute shutdown halfway through that year. went into depression for the first time in my life. And that's when I uncovered, found a fabulous therapist, worked with coaches. And that's when we were like, okay, this is what this is about. This is, you never dealt with this trauma. You never dealt with the shame. And as the fabulous Brene Brown tells us, shame is the most emotive emotion we can feel. It's the most powerful emotion we can have. And so I had to go back and sort of deal with that, reconcile that. And the interesting thing is, like, I didn't know we could change the way we feel about ourselves. Like, I didn't know that we could accept ourselves at this, later stage. At that point, I was just in my early 40s. I didn't know we could do that. And once
now we get to the crux, the heart of this. And now we find out the juicy part about the process of changing yourself. I've been waiting for this part.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, you're either born with, we love to throw the word confidence around, and, because I think people understand, they think, or what they think confidence is. But I was always of like, oh, you have confidence or you don't. Well, actually, what can happen is you can go back and like what I like to call it is reprogram how you feel about yourself. But at the crux of that, at the very foundation of that, is self-acceptance. The self-acceptance piece is crucial, because that's how we're going to be able to, when we can understand that we're not perfect. If there's any word I wish I could eradicate from the English language, it's the word perfect, because there's no such thing. We all have issues. We all have things. It's just, that we're flawed human beings, but society doesn't tell us that.
That's the good news.
That is
the good news is that we are flawed people, and we get to work through that. I was meant to mess up times as a mother so that my children had all that stuff to work through.
But it really is. And I think that was the thing for me, that I was like, oh my gosh, that was just the light bulb moment of, this is what I want to do. I want to help people feel. It's basically improving the relationship with yourself, how you feel about yourself. Because once we can do that, that has that ripple effect. If I feel better about myself, I'm going to step out every day as the best version of myself. My relationship with my family, my friends, my colleagues, my coworkers, all of the things, they're going to be better.
Yeah.
Because I'm not spending my time beating myself up because I'm not perfect. And that was a light bulb moment for me when I was like, I don't want anyone to ever feel as badly about themselves as I felt about myself. And so that was what kicked off the confidence coaching and then what I do now. And then during the pandemic. I think
that for me, I'm surprised, Angela, how similar our journeys are. Me as the self-loathing, full of shame child, and that then I began to be a great coping and learn how to look like I was okay about myself, but nothing inside had changed. And then at age 50, began to go through this process of changing that, and to go from this person that was an introvert masquerading as an extrovert and afraid to be out there and afraid to do anything, and change that. That's what I'm finding for me is the most rewarding right now, other than living in this place of joy, is that other people like to be around people, and they can feel the difference between fake confidence and genuine claiming our self-worth. And when you have a life coach, and when you listen to someone who has gone that journey, there's this immediate kind of empathy between you. And it gives people hope. What you're offering people, Angela, is hope. And that's one of the greatest gifts you can give. So your life coaching position now, talk to me about your business and what you actually do now to lift others.
So thank you for that. And again, you have an amazing ability to eloquently just summarize things so beautifully. And that is exactly right. I think it does give people hope to think, oh,
Yeah.
everyone else's life isn't
She can do it. I can do it.
roses
Yeah.
and unicorns, like, right? And we think, oh, okay, we'll just that, and I agree with you. That's where the real connection happens, and it's absolutely fantastic. And so for my coaching now is focused on that self-acceptance piece. We work through, just reprogramming that self-acceptance and feeling better about ourselves, and just understanding that, like I said earlier, we're flawed human beings, and that's okay. And a lot of what comes up in there is imposter syndrome, is
Yep.
perfectionism. Those are all, imposter syndrome, procrastination. Well, procrastination and perfectionism are the opposite sides of the same coin. It's all around,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's all about getting stuck and not being able to get out of your own way. And so if we can just go, okay, let's go out there, let's try this, let's make a mistake. God forbid we make a mistake. But as you said, I mean, that's where the learning happens. That's where we learn and grow, and we are better for it. But what a better option than to pull back the reins and be small and confined and never, dip the toe in the water to what we could, ultimately achieve.
I think for me, one of the critical pieces of the work that both of us do is to get people to believe it, to truly believe that change is possible. Because we've heard that so many times, that, oh, it's in your bones, it's genetic, or it's your upbringing, or look at all those people that have failed and tried and failed again. And we are programmed to believe that we are inevitably going to fail. Like, what a disastrous thing to program into our society. But it's true. We believe that we're going to fail. And to be able to shift that, Angela, to believing that there is hope. So when you actually are talking with somebody in your life coaching, what do you encourage them, or what do you say to them as the first step to move from complete non-belief that change truly is lastingly possible? What's the first step for you to getting them to believe that there is hope and that I can change? What's that first step?
That's such a great question. I think number one is laying it out just as you have. We have been conditioned from childhood to believe what you just described. So our self-worth, our view of ourselves is formed around the ages of 7 to 9 years old. So something that happened to us, something we observed, something we experienced, something that was told to us, that our minds are not developed enough at that time to do anything other than to take it on as fact. So if someone says, well, you're not smart, you're not capable, you're not good at this, be like everybody else, that's the guiding star that then unless some point along the way, we get challenged around that and we go, oh, wait a minute, is that actually true? So that's where I like to start. So just explaining that bit. I love to do this exercise where we sort of trace it back. And it is fascinating to me that every client that I've worked with, I will ask them, what was the moment? Tell me about a time, or tell me an experience that formed your self-belief, your self-worth, whatever. And I kid you not, people can go boom like that. One of the very first clients I ever worked with, she was in her mid-50s, and she said, oh, I can tell you exactly what that was. I was standing in my grandparents' kitchen, and I was 5, and the family was playing games, and I came out and said I wanted to play, and my uncle said, you, this one? We can't teach you anything. And she recalled, I remember just being stunned, jaw-dropping, stunned. She's in her mid-50s, and she could recall that within a matter of seconds, that experience. That's how powerful our minds are. And so I like to lay that out for people. I like to explain to people that we all go through this. This is, unfortunately, it's not unique. We are conditioned as society, and it's explaining, the neuroscience of the brain and how the brain works. The brain will believe anything you tell it. So let's spend the time telling it positive things. Let's reframe that little girl who was told she wasn't smart. So she went on to believe that for the next 50 years. I mean, it just like breaks your heart, because what a different life she might have had. If she had had more confidence, if she had had a different belief system, if she had said, that is not true anywhere along that path. And I think that's the powerful thing about, and what I love so much about this, because when people do that reprogramming, when they actually go, oh my gosh, that was not true at all. That was not true. Look at all the things that I have accomplished. Look at all the things that I've done. That's the fact. And that's another exercise that I like to do right at the beginning. Is like, okay, let's go into facts. Let's write out. And I like to have it written on paper, because it's a different thing to have to see it on paper, right, so that we can convince ourselves, if nothing else, when we get into those moments of fear, and we all do, like that never goes away. That's just part of the human experience. Yeah. But if we can overcome that, if we can go, okay, I'm feeling fear in this moment, but darn it, I'm going to go anyway, because I know what's on the other side has amazing potential. And then you can pull out that piece of paper and go, okay, here's what I've accomplished. Here's what I've overcome. Here's what I've been able to do with this terrible belief that I wasn't good enough in whatever way. It's so powerful, and it's just like seeing flowers blossom in the spring. And I love it so much.
Yes. The science behind this isn't just mumbo jumbo. There's actually such deep science behind this, about that, our brainstem, as you're developing as an embryo, is the first to start developing. And it's with you fully developed when you're born. It's why you have fight and flight, such keen senses, because it's fully developed. It knows if it should, fight or flight. It teaches it. And the brainstem, that back part of the brain, does not know what is truth and what is fiction. It believes everything that's programmed into it. Oh, I can't do anything. Oh, I'm always going to be this way. Or, oh, I'm always that, And really, most people don't begin to start to develop and fully this frontal lobe until they're, started in their 12, 13. Most people are in their 20s before they have a fully completed frontal lobe and can actually discern the difference between what they were told and what is truth. And if you can go back anytime at that point, when you have a complete, of course, in my walk of life, I've met many people who were 50 and still didn't have a completed frontal lobe. But if you can go back and say, wait a minute, what was this? Was this fact or fiction? Is this a fact that I can't do anything physical, that I'm very uncoordinated? Or was that something that I was told and has nothing to do with reality? That I have no hand-eye coordination. Wait a minute, I play the piano. Wait a minute, I can cut vegetables like nobody's business. I'm very good at hand-eye coordination. And so here I am, 69. And just this last summer, before, when John would throw me the ball, I would always wait for it to drop and go along the ground. And he said to me, Mary, why don't you just catch the ball? I go, I'm sorry, I don't know how to catch a ball. Who told you that? Well, when I was in grade school, my PE coach. He goes, just stand right there for a second. I'm going to toss this ball to you. So he started tossing it to me, and I would just like grab a hold of it, like I was clutching my life, and hold it to my chest. He goes, no, I want you to reach out and grab it, just like this, like out of the air. Do you think you can do that? He goes, don't take your eye off the ball. Okay. Here it comes. Grab. I looked down at my hand, and I was like, I caught this ball. At 69, I realized I could catch a ball, because someone way back then had told me, you're not coordinated, you can't play ball, last to be chosen on every team sport. And suddenly, dang, I'm really good at this stuff. It's a small change, but think of that massive change that can happen if we're talking about our life skills, how we cope in this life. Your work is so important with what you're doing, Angela. So, of all the things that you get to do now, and it's called what?
So the coaching, and I do workshops and speaking, is Joyful Life Solutions.
Joyful Life Solutions, yes. And so what do you get to do with that? What do you speak, you do life coaching. Is anyone available to find you? Can they look on
Absolutely.
the internet? Okay.
Absolutely. So joyfullifesolutions.com. You can go and find me there. But I do, I've got a new group coaching program coming out, because I think there's so much, again, because this is such an interesting space, because we think, okay, well, I'm the only one that feels this way.
Oh, yeah.
And I know sometimes people, when they hear group coaching, they think, oh my gosh, I don't want to. But what I have found for myself,
bare my soul.
Participated in exactly, like, we're going to do this at a bunch of strangers, I'm the only one. But what I've, in my own, when I've participated in group coaching, the number one, the camaraderie, and you realize, oh my gosh, I am not alone in this. And I think that's the biggest barrier for me when, putting this information forth and wanting to work with clients, is they, like you said earlier, they think, oh, this isn't going to work for me, or I'm different, or I'm not going to be able to do this, or I'm the only one. And when you come into a group coaching program, and I keep mine intentionally small, so like no more than 10, 6 to 10 people, so that everyone really does get a chance to get that coaching and be part of that community. But it is amazing, because I think it actually speeds up someone's progress. Because if I'm doing coaching, like hot seat coaching, like I have, once a week we do that, but the other people are listening.
Wait, that sounds very interesting. Go back. Hot seat coaching?
Hot seat coaching.
Tell me about that. What is that?
It's so good. So it's part of the program. So it's an 8-week program, and there's modules or learning that come out at the beginning of every week, and you have exercises to work through, because there's, just like I was mentioning, like the tracing it back exercise, what was the thing that you were told? What's that belief? And let's challenge that. And so there's lots of different exercises, and we go through the acceptance part. There's a lot that goes into that self-acceptance exercises. But then once a week, we come on live, and anybody has the opportunity to say, I'm struggling with this. And then I will do hot seat coaching with them. And it's the fabulous thing is they always get a breakthrough, but the people listening usually have massive takeaways as well. Yeah, so you learn by watching other people get coached. But like I was saying, when you can kind of just open up yourself to possibility, because like I said, it was like, oh, I'm the only one. You so quickly, like day one, you learn you're not the only one. There's a community of like-minded women who also want to change this dialogue, who also want to catch the ball, even though they were told they were not coordinated and they couldn't do it. And they put themselves out. And I love that. You have the courage to step into this circle, this safe circle. But what I have found is, the progress goes so much faster than when you do one-on-one weekly coaching, because you have this amazing environment and other people going through it at the same time.
Angela, for me, what I think is one of the most profound breakthroughs in a cultural society is we used to think that, okay, I messed up and I'm flawed, but the only way out is through a psychiatrist laying on the sofa with your head on a pillow as he sits there with his notepad. One, most people can't afford that. And two, there's that thing that it takes decades and you may never be well. That was such a bunch of hooey hockey that we were fed as a society for so long. and that it doesn't have to take decades. We can get these breakthroughs like this. It doesn't have to cost a gazillion dollars. Yeah, you got a psychiatrist there that's been through all those dozens and dozens of decades of training, and you're one-on-one, but you're offering coaching in a group setting online. The cost of that is reduced drastically so that people now can afford this, and they get to see that, oh my gosh, hey, I'm just like everybody else. Oh, I think I can do this. We have taken it out of the back room of somebody's doctor's office and moved it into mainstream society that says, we got this. We can do this. And that's a gift from your struggles to your heart, to your brain, to the world. Wow. You're amazing.
Thank you. That's so awesome. Yeah. And once again, yes, you summed it up beautifully.
So our time now is pretty close to over. And I just want people to be able to have this sense of really the greatness of who you are. To have gone from South Dakota to losing your hearing, all the shame that's involved with that, to having a cochlear implant, to waking up to life, to having the courage to leave your financially stable career to follow in what you knew you were supposed to do. You're like everyone's poster child.
That's very kind.
Okay, so how do people find you and reconnect with you on social media? Are you on Instagram, Facebook?
I am on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you search Angela Irwin, or if you search Joyful Life Solutions, that will come up on any of those platforms. So I would love to hear from you, or if you're interested in seeing how we might work together, that would be awesome.
And just from now, some people are just listening, but some people, the smart people, are also watching on YouTube. And they get to see your face. And that's what, when I look at you, I look at this woman of compassion and empathy who has a desire to truly help and lift. This is not about you becoming, self-aggrandizement kind of thing where you just want to push yourself up. You really care. Mm. And that you are this most beautiful, empathetic person. And that comes across as I'm looking one-on-one with you. So, Angela, thank you so much for being here. Any parting words of joy?
Thank you so much. And it's been a real pleasure to be here. And if you're listening to this or watching this, just know that it's possible for you as well. It really is.
It really is. Angela and I are here to tell you. All right. Thank you for being with me today on Crafting a Meaningful Life. This isn't just anybody's meaningful life. This is yours. And we get a shot at this, to craft this, to leave this legacy, to live this beautiful life. Are you ready to be the best version of yourself? Thanks for listening. Namaste.
Listen to the full podcast today and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more. Crafting a Meaningful Life with Mary Crafts.